More on cryptocurrency with Bryan Chaffin. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the second part of a two-part conversation with Bryan Chaffin about cryptocurrency. Bryan is a cryptocurrency enthusiast, and he tells us a little bit more about the world of cryptocurrency, what's going on in it right now, and helps us decide whether or not we want to be part of the crypto world. Let's go back and let Bryan do the talking.
Bitcoin, let's talk about, I'm like giving all these things that are like problems with crypto, and I am a crypto enthusiast. But let's talk about, let's see, crypto can handle, let's see, let me make some sausage here. Bitcoin transactions per second. So the Bitcoin can process roughly 4.6 transactions per second. Visa does roughly 1,700 transactions per second. 4.6 transactions per second. So at any given moment, almost, but not quite, 5 people could buy something around the world. That's not a lot. That's just not a lot. And, yeah.
But what difference does that make to me as someone who might be one of the people that wants to do that?
Because you're going to end up you're going to have to wait. So okay. Let me put it another way. If I'm going to send you dollars through PayPal, you're going to get those dollars instantly, right?
Right.
Or at least you're going to be told that you're getting it instantly. If you want to transfer it to your bank, you can transfer it to your bank instantly for a fee of up to, I think, $15 currently. I forget what it is, but it's 1%. There was a cap of $10. I think they just raised that cap, and they'll do it instantly. If you want to, here in the U.S. at least, if you want to transfer it to your bank without paying a fee, it'll take 1 to 3 business days. Right? That's not fast. If I want to wire you money, or let's say that you're in Japan and you have just found this amazing piece of art that you want to buy for your house, Chuck, and you say, man, I bet Bryan would loan me money. And you say, hey, Bryan, can you wire me some money? I want to buy this amazing piece of art in Japan, and I can't access the dollars. So can you wire me some money for some reason? And I'm like, sure, Chuck, I'm going to wire you money. Where you're going to wait days and days and days to get that money, and it's going to cost tens of dollars for me to wire you that money. That's really slow and expensive. So when you're comparing sending Bitcoin to anyone in the world, and it takes 10 minutes, maybe an hour, and it costs a few tens of cents or maybe even a few dollars, compared to a wire, that's super fast. Compared to transferring money from PayPal to your bank account for free, it's very fast. Doing that instant transfer for up to $15, that's pretty slow, and you're waiting and you have to wait. You have to wait an indeterminate amount of time because you're waiting on the random chance of a block being found by miners. Right? So there's, in some ways, sending Bitcoin is fast and cheap, and in other ways, sending Bitcoin is slow and expensive, especially for daily commerce. You want to go pay for a Coke, a bottle of pop. I'm sorry, you're in the Northeast. A bottle of pop at at a convenience store for $1.79, and you're going to do it with Bitcoin. You're going to wait there for 20 minutes before the transaction is confirmed. Maybe it'll be 20 minutes before you get a couple of confirmations on the blockchain. Well, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. That doesn't work. Not in no way whatsoever does it work for a transaction to take 10 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes for it to be confirmed and made valid.
Okay, that's a
not
really
for that
example.
kind of. not for that kind of commerce. Now, there are some cryptos that are fast as can be. One of my favorites is Cardano. Cardano is super fast. It is super fast. It'll have the way Cardano is done. There will be 10 confirmations in a matter of moments. And there are some cryptos that are even faster. They're just designed. They were designed to solve this problem that Bitcoin has, which is how many transactions it can handle and how long it takes that transaction to confirm.
Okay, I mean those are really good examples, because that, I think, illustrates why crypto is not ideal for most of the transactions that most of us engage in on a regular basis.
For daily commerce.
For daily commerce, yeah.
Yeah, for sending you a couple, like, I don't know, sending you a couple of $1,000 that I owe you for some reason, and it doesn't really matter when you get it. What's great for that? It might not be worth a couple $1,000 when you get it. Might be worth more, might be less. But I mean, the point is that for transactions like that, where it doesn't matter how long it takes, something like Bitcoin can be great. But for buying a bottle of pop at the store, it's a complete non-starter.
Bryan, before we run out of time, I know pre-show we were talking. You said you were going to talk to us about staking. And
oh my God, I have. I'm anxious. Well, there were a couple of things I wanted to get into, which is I've been what I'm trying to what's another word for poop talking that doesn't use a word that's going to get censored by Chuck. I've been talking smack about cryptos nonstop for like the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes. The thing is that this is a fast moving space, and while I own several cryptos, some early generation cryptos that don't necessarily do a lot, and that's just because I've owned them all along. The cryptos that I put dollars in today are cryptos that do something. They solve a problem. They add some kind of functionality. They do something, and they do something that is interesting to me. Cardano, Chainlink, Polkadot. One of my favorites is Fetch.ai, which is software agents on a blockchain. Do you remember software agents, Chuck?
Sure.
Yeah, like I've been waiting for my software agents, right? Like I'm like, where's my Jetpack? Where's my software agents? I've been waiting for my software agents since like 1999, and can't wait for my software agents. Well, we don't have software agents, but Fetch.ai is a project that is wants to bring autonomous software agents that can negotiate and make decisions with each other on a blockchain. And that is super exciting to me. Like, for instance, my go-to example for understanding why it is I'm so interested in Fetch. If you're going to buy a flight to somewhere, you can get on Expedia or you can do Kayak, and you're going to get a lot of noise, and you've got to sort through that noise. And that noise is still going to be pretty tied to, like, I want to fly on this day and come back on this day, right? What it's very, very difficult to do is to find the best day to fly on, right? Flying out from Tuesday or flying out on Thursday or flying out on the weekend are all going to have very, very different prices with them, right? And that's also true for week to week. Your prices may be different, and it's all dependent upon the conditions of the flying industry at that time. Well, imagine if you could actually have a software agent go through and compare all of the prices on all of the days, at all of the times of day, and get you the actual best price with the shortest or non-layover possible, and then get that ticket for you. That's way better than going to something like Kayak and getting this massive amount of information that you still have to sort through, or even going to Wikipedia. Expedia, I like to call it sometimes, and going to Expedia and getting this massive amount of information that you have to sort through. Well, software agents could possibly do that for me. And a number of software agents could work together. Like one software agent could negotiate or execute a trade for different cryptos into maybe different fiat currencies to buy my ticket for me. And maybe some other software agents could actually also be looking like they know that I'm traveling to London, so I'm going to need some pounds. And so they're watching the markets and they're going to execute some dollars to pound conversions for me at a time that is most advantageous to me, et cetera. That is, to me, extremely exciting. And Fetch.ai is trying to make that a reality. It's still way early in the project. I do own Fetch. I don't know if I listed it earlier, but I do own Fetch. I love Fetch. And if they can do what they say they're going to do, it's going to be interesting. Could actually be, it could, I don't want to use the word life-changing, but it could actually have an effect on the way some of us do business, or some of us do do some aspects of our lives. And that is super interesting to me. All of which comes down to my other criteria. I don't tend to put dollars into a crypto unless they offer some kind of staking. And I'm going to try to give you the fast and dirty explanation of what staking is. So first of all, I have to start with what staking means. There are, at this point, there are effectively two kinds of what's called consensus, but doing the security checks on the encryption that is done for each transaction to keep it secure. There's proof of work and there's proof of stake. Bitcoin is proof of work. What that means is that there are computers that are doing the work, and if one of them is lucky enough to find a block when they're doing that work, they get awarded the Bitcoin that is newly created and given to them. And the problem is, a lot of our viewers and listeners might already know this, but a whole lot of electricity goes to mining Bitcoin. It's like 1% of the electricity produced around the planet is currently being used to mine Bitcoin. It's insane and ridiculous and awful. Another system for getting consensus, i.e., keeping everything secure, is called proof of stake. And I'm going to explain how Cardano's proof of stake works with an auctioneer metaphor. Are you ready, Chuck?
Go for it.
Okay. With proof of work, you have all of these computers all frantically working on the same math problems, hoping that they're the ones that are going to be lucky and they're going to find the block. So there's a lot of redundant and wasted work. And then the more computers get thrown at it, the harder the work becomes, so that all of the new Bitcoins aren't found all at one time. With proof of stake, what you have is you have people running a computer, might be a server, but it might be server space that's rented from, say, Amazon Web Services. And all of those people who have set up their computer to do the proof of stake consensus work are all lined up in front of the blockchain. And the blockchain is represented by an auctioneer. The auctioneer is up on stage, and the auctioneer says, who's got some Cardano? And this person with a computer all set up to do this proof of stake consensus says, I've got some Cardano. I've got 100,000 Cardano. And the auctioneer says, oh, that's fantastic. And then he writes that person's name down on 100,000 pieces of paper, and they go into a fishbowl. And then the auctioneer says, who else has got some Cardano? And another person says, I've got some Cardano. I've got 1 million. So that's great. So he writes that person's name down on 1 million pieces of paper, throws them into the fishbowl. So now the fishbowl's got 1,100,000 pieces of paper in it. And he goes through all of the parties who have said that they have a computer and that they are prepared to do this work. And they are offering as their guarantee that they're going to do the job properly all the Cardano that's under their control. right? They're not giving it away. They're just saying, I've got this, like I've put money into this Cardano, and this is my commitment to guaranteeing the network. So then the auctioneer says, great, now I've got billions of pieces of paper in this fishbowl, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take time, and I'm going to divide that time into epochs, and I'm going to divide those epochs into slots. And I forget off the top of my head how many slots are in an epoch, but I think it's a couple 100,000. So each slot, so each epoch is 5 days long. There's a couple of 100,000 slots that last for seconds. And for each slot, the auctioneer draws a piece of paper out of that fishbowl and says, aha, Bryan, you get slot 1. And so I'm excited. So that's fantastic. And so my computer is suddenly checking encryption and making sure that everything is secure. And at the end of my slot, the auctioneer draws another piece of paper and says, okay, now Chuck, your computer is going to handle slot 2, and your computer is going to handle slot 3, and your computer is going to handle slot 4, and your computer is going to handle slot 5. So now what you have is one computer doing the work to guarantee the network, instead of millions of computers working all at the same time to guarantee the network. And there never has to be an escalation in difficulty, because the control is being dictated by who has put up their Cardano as a stake. So you've got one computer at a time instead of millions of computers at a time doing it. And this job is constantly handled off. There's all kinds of redundancy involved too. My explanation is extraordinarily simplified. But the way it works is that the blockchain is handing out the rights to these computers to do the work. And if those computers are down, people will end up pulling their staked Cardano from that pool. And that computer won't end up, the person that's running that pool, if they're not up and they're not running and they're not making everything work, then they're going to end up not being able to continue to do the work, and will be penalized accordingly. And so the system basically takes care of itself that way.
So it's a little bit like, and correct me if my metaphor is wrong, it's like staking somebody at the poker table. That if I say I'm going to back you for $1,000, you sit down at the poker table, and as long as you don't lose more than $1,000, you're fine. But if you lose $5,000, then you're going to be penalized by the guys taking you out in the back and beating you with baseball bats.
Yeah, it's not quite. I like the analogy. I like where your brain went, but and that actually kind of brings up another point. If you stake someone for $1,000 in a poker game, you're getting some percentage of his winnings, right? And you're gonna have negotiated that. Well, that's how these staking pools work too. So with each of those slots, there's a very small chance of finding a block, and new Cardano is awarded with that block. And then that Cardano gets spread evenly amongst all of the people who have staked their Cardano to that pool.
Okay.
So right, the percentage.
Bryan, you just went mute.
That's fun.
Sorry.
You can't actually have a loss. The way it works, you just might not get anything. Like if your pool's not big enough, it might not end up finding any blocks. Okay. But and the beautiful thing is that Cardano in particular, and by the way, all the staking systems work a little bit differently. What I described was my idea of how the Cardano system works. Other staking systems work a little bit differently, but it's all done through a wallet. So if I stake my Cardano to a pool, I'm pledging it to that pool, but I retain ownership the whole time. I don't have to actually send my Cardano anywhere. The network, the blockchain, the wallets were actually devised from the ground up to allow me to simply stake my Cardano, pledge it to a given pool, but retain ownership the whole time.
Today's Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. The MacVoices Slack is where you can connect with the members of the MacVoices Live panel and other MacVoices patrons. Get in on the discussions, agree or disagree with our opinions, and get your voice heard. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. And thanks for supporting MacVoices. So the one other thing I need to ask you about your example, you said that in your example, there are 5 computers guaranteeing the network, as opposed to, hundreds or thousands around the world.
It actually is hundreds, but go ahead.
Okay. So does that not make the network more vulnerable because there's not as much redundancy?
That's a great question. No, the redundancy is actually handled by the protocol. I mean, like if a computer is given a slot but it doesn't actually meet it goes offline. There's a redundancy system that's set up for that with Cardano at least. And in addition to that, you've got each slot being so short, any given computer going down isn't going to crush anything anyway. Right, the slots are really, really, really quick. But the thing that may not have been immediately clear is the only reason why it takes so many Bitcoin miners to mine Bitcoin is because the difficulty has been artificially increased because there are so many computers doing it. When Bitcoin started off, it was Satoshi Nakamoto and maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 of us, I don't know how many people, but it was a handful of people that were doing the mining on their PCs. And then other people started throwing their PCs at it, and other people started throwing their PCs at it. And because Bitcoin was designed for the last fraction of a Bitcoin to be mined sometime in the year 2138, it's set up so that the more computers that are trying to do the math, the harder the math is. If computers get taken offline, eventually the difficulty would be decreased. But in general, it kind of goes up like that. Generally speaking, if you look at the difficulty graph, it's a straight. I know I'm going in 2 different directions here. Just deal with me. It's this line that's going up like that with little jagged bits here and there. But anyway, the point is this: you don't need all those computers doing the encryption. The encryption is really, really difficult as it is. But because there are so many computers doing the Bitcoin mining, it has to be ever harder. With the proof of stake systems, the difficulty does not have to be increased just to keep up with new computers. If you have more and more pools that are joining the network, you're just taking the existing amount of work and you're spreading it amongst new players. But there's still only one player at a time that is actually doing the work. And you get a reward for that. You just like with Bitcoin mining, where new Bitcoins are minted and handed out with the block that is found. When a Cardano block is found, Cardano it's a little bit different, but the Cardano bank hands out some Cardano that it's holding is very specific to this purpose. And there's also transaction fees, and those transaction fees also get spread out amongst all the people who are staking.
So it's safe to say that everybody that's doing some of the work, everybody that's providing some of the guarantees, everybody's getting paid a little something, just like in the real world when you take your money to the bank and you're getting a little bit of interest so they can use your money to loan it out to somebody else. And that person is able to, that person takes the loan and they use it to start a business where they make money that hopefully is in excess of what they're paying the bank. And so it just goes on and on and on.
They go right. And with staking, like different cryptos pay different staking rewards. With Cardano, I generally speaking see about 4 or 5% annual return, which is a lot more than a bank's going to give me for dollars. Polkadot, I stake Polkadot through Kraken. That pays 12%, and it's compounded twice a week. My Cardano is compounded every 5 days. There are some cryptos that pay higher staking rewards. The fetch staking rewards are based on how much fetch is actually being staked. I'm currently seeing over 16% annual return, and that's actually paid out throughout the day. So it compounds as quickly as I want it to. So, am I making sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like I say, if I'm going to put dollar bills into a crypto, it needs to offer staking rather than proof of work, because proof of like Chainlink is trying to make it so that different blockchains can talk to each other. That's super useful. There are cryptos that are trying to make it so that blockchains can talk to the existing financial world. That's super useful. There are various cryptos that can do smart contracts. Ethereum was the first that could do smart contracts. Smart contracts have an enormous amount of potential to have a very positive effect, or at the very least, a substantial effect on the business world. That stuff is very, very interesting. NFTs are fun. NFT games, I think, are really, really interesting. That's one of the newest things is NFT games, where your character is an NFT. Do we not want to open the NFT can of worms?
No, we're not. Bryan, you got to come back. I mean, we're way over time, but there's so many. I have at least a dozen questions here about the things you've already told us, and let alone getting into NFTs. And that'll be a fun conversation too. We got to do this again. But I do want to wrap with one question though, and I think it's an important one because it's one of the things that I would be thinking if I were to get into this in any kind of non-trivial way. Let's say I get into crypto and it goes up, and it goes up to the point that I'm happy with the profit and I want to get out. Obviously, we've talked about how you can get into Bitcoin. How do you get out of crypto? How do you get out of any of the ones that you've talked about, the either the legacy ones, the oldest ones, or the newest ones? How easy and what kind of fees do you pay to get back out, to transfer back to dollars? I think you're muted again. Sorry.
Don't know why that happens. Most exchanges allow a variety of trading from either crypto to crypto, or dollars to crypto, or crypto to dollars. So Coinbase being a good example, you can deposit through your bank, from your bank, I should say, not through your bank, but you can basically connect your bank account using, you're giving them your routing number and your account number, they basically trigger the deposit. They let you trade those dollars instantly, but you cannot withdraw them for 5 days. Usually 5 days. I've seen it be 6, and I've also seen it be 3. And so that they can basically make sure that they actually have the confirmation confirmed, or actually get those dollars confirmed from your bank. And if you were to turn around and then sell your Bitcoin or your whatever crypto it might be on an exchange for dollars, you could then transfer those dollars to your bank account, same way you transferred them in.
What kind of fee? What kind of percentage do they take for the transaction?
They don't. That's going to be I can't answer that question because it's going to be constantly changing. Generally speaking, the only fees they charge, I don't sell my cryptos for dollars, so I don't actually know what they charge to send money back to your bank. They generally speaking will charge a transaction fee to cover whatever fees the crypto network that you're on are charging. So if for instance, if I put dollars in and I buy Cardano and I want to move Cardano somewhere else, then I'm going to cover the transaction fee that the Cardano network charges to send anything. Some exchanges are going to charge more. So they are taking a profit from it, but it's still, generally speaking, it's not going to be a whole lot of money. Ethereum cost a ridiculous amount of money to send anything on. Like Ethereum, which I own, is largely a mess. And part of the reason why it's a mess is it was the first crypto to do a lot of very important things, including smart contracts. And so there's a lot of development on the Ethereum platform, and but it can cost sometimes many tens of dollars to send any amount of Ethereum. Like it can be super expensive, and accordingly, that's something you have to watch. But it's always going to be any given transaction fee is always going to depend on how congested a blockchain might be at that time, and then whatever kind of fees that blockchain might be charging.
Okay. So again, Wild Wild West. The rules are different for just about everything. You just got to make sure you have the right rule book.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe someone has made it. that rule book might exist.
Well, I meant by that for the particular exchange and for the particular crypto that you are dealing with. I didn't mean across the board for everybody, but.
And not surprisingly, the cryptos, generally speaking, making it cheap or free to get dollars onto their exchange. They might not be as cheap or free to get your dollars out.
Right.
And there are also, by the way, there are things called decentralized exchanges or DEXs, and that's where the exchange actually exists completely. Like it's not being run on company A's server somewhere. It's actually being run through the blockchain itself, so that it's like all of the math is being handled through smart. Anyway, that's definitely another can of worms, and I don't even quite know enough to get myself in trouble. Like I'm starting off being in trouble by even mentioning it.
All right, well, go study up on it and come back because again, there are a number of things that I really want this conversation to go on for a couple of hours because I'd like to learn more and find out what you know, find out what you don't know, and aid my understanding because I'm about 50 paces back.
I would love it if your listeners and viewers let you know any questions that they have, and that I trust you to get those to me.
Absolutely, yeah, please do, because that would be the perfect way to get Bryan back the next time is to have a Q&A session for some of your questions, and then we can jump off from there. But yes, absolutely. So Chuck at MacVoices.com, you can send me any or all crypto questions, and we'll have our crypto expert Bryan Chaffin answer them.
And my email address is chuck at macvoices.com. So you can write me there. I don't have I need a public address. I don't have one anymore. So I got to sort that out.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, until then, crypto questions only. Don't send any. If you're sending love letters to Bryan, please don't.
All your questions, anything you have to say about me, to me, Chuck at MacVoices.com. Just send it all right there.
Oh, so since you don't have a public email address, I mean, do we have? Are you still TM O'Brien on Twitter?
I am. That might change because of the TMO part of that. I will probably end up changing that, but I really have been. I don't tweet much. I consume most of my Twitter through my other account, which is Geektells, GeekTells. And then geektells.com is my neglected blog.
Okay, got it. Bryan, thank you. We went deep, and I'm sure we have some people's heads spinning. You certainly have mine spinning in several places. But it's fascinating, and I still just believe it's important that we all pay just a little bit of attention, and at least maybe can't answer questions, but we at least start to know which questions to ask before we dive in.
Yeah.
So we'll have you back soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me today.
Hey, good to see you. I know we kept you through sundown. Sorry about that.
Yeah. It's almost dark.
Yeah, it's getting dark and Ichabod is demanding attention. So
Yes.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Yeah, if we left your head swimming, sorry about that. But, that's the first leg in getting some understanding in some of this wild crypto world. I hope you will join us next time Brian comes. I hope you'll join us every time we're here. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.